definitely such a mood, but we're going with it and the show is gonna go on because this is the time that I have to film. So, hey guys, my name is Steph and welcome to another video. This video is gonna be my mid-year freakout tag. This year I read 57 books so far, and there is currently a huge storm blowing in from Sumatra, my partner informs me. So if there is ambient rain sounds and thunder and lightning, I live in the tropics, it's not a paid actor. So I'm gonna just get straight into it. I have three because I'm indecisive, but number one is definitely Man Tiger. I read this really recently as part of my Reading Around the World challenge. And so I read this one while I was traveling through Yogyakarta because the author is Indonesian from Java. This book I would describe as kind of a magical realism thriller. It's about a man who has a white tiger in his body and he commits murder on the first page, and so it's kind of a whodunit. And it was just very fun, very interesting, and very atmospheric as well. I really enjoyed how it drew on a lot of Japanese mythology and the really intimate picture that we get of all of the characters' lives. So I just love this. It meant a lot. It was very entertaining and a really wonderful book. The second best book that I've read so far this year is definitely One Dark Window. This is a book that I cannot shut up about. I'm probably going to talk about it a few times on this list. I love this book. This is like a gothic fantasy about a girl who lives in a town called Blender, and the town is mist blocked. She has a creature that's living inside of her, kind of hidden, and she goes on a quest collecting magical cards that can apparently eradicate the mist that is locking the town. Yeah, I just love this book so much. I thought that the world building was so interesting and unique, and the end of this, I don't know how the story is going to even continue. I don't understand. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if we're going to get a happy ending, an ambiguous ending. I really need book 2 right now. The third book was Strange the Dreamer. I put off reading this book the first time I tried picking it up. It really didn't work that well for me, and I don't really know why, because the second time that I picked it up, I was completely enamored with prose, the beautiful analogies and the word choice, and just her entire writing style, which also completely matches the sort of mythical, magical story. I'm so glad that I finally picked this book up. And hands down, it is Muse of Nightmares. I think, though, this is probably the only sequel that I've read this year. I've read a lot of standalones and I've started a lot of series, but I haven't gone on to book 2 yet. But Muse of Nightmares is the second in a duology follow-up to Strange the Dreamer, and it really delivered absolutely everything that I want from a good sequel. The ending was really satisfying. It picked up basically right where Strange the Dreamer left off. I feel like it was just everything that Strange the Dreamer was, but more, as a good sequel should be. Oh my god. Beyond a Doubt, Witch King by Martha Wells. I love her Murderbot series, and I think this is her first actual novel for a really long time. So I have no idea what it's actually about, but I believe this follows a guy who has been murdered and his consciousness has been dormant for a long time, and he kind of comes back into himself. And we see a little bit about his life's journey and what happened and all of that, but I really don't know. I just know that there's the little quote is, "I didn't know you were a demon. You idiot, I am the demon." And then it says, "Kai is having a long day in Martha Wells' Witch King." So, I mean, it sounds humorous and fun. So this is an upcoming release, something that hasn't been released yet. And I have three answers for this. Number one is A Study in Drowning. That is by Ava Reid. I really love Ava Reid's other books. I feel like she does something really interesting with horror and tends to be very psychological. So this is supposed to be kind of a dark academia-esque, rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers type of book. So it's about Effie, who's an architecture student, and she wins a contest to, I believe, revamp an old crumbling manor of her favorite author alongside her rival. And then there is also some Fae King, I've heard, or what is cited as a dark force, both both mortal and magical, conspiring against them. Cute thunder. The second book that I'm really excitedly anticipating here is Rouge by Mona Awad. And this is about a woman who has been completely obsessed with skincare videos and like beauty trends. And she goes to this place that's supposed to be like a transformative spa experience. It's described as a horror Snow White meets Eyes Wide Open, and she basically goes into this spa that her late mother was completely obsessed with and discovers some like dark, kind of magical, unthinking things there. So I find that very intriguing. I love Mona Awad, and this just sounds creepy and like a great criticism of the beauty industry. And the third book that I'm really excited for, as I said, is the sequel to One Dark Window, and that is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. It is the last book in the duology, and I am just so excited for this. I don't know what's gonna happen. I have two, and number one is This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. This is a nonfiction, and I went on a little bit of a rant, kind of explaining why I thought that the way that this research was framed was kind of problematic, and so I'll link that video up above. Basically, I just felt like this was really narrow. It was very cis-het, and the tone that the research was presented in just wasn't really to my taste. I found it kind of obnoxious. So the research was good, but the way that it was framed and presented, I took a lot of issues with. Book number two is a fiction, and that was Half a Soul. I found that this book was very delightful. It was very fun, but it also just wasn't for me. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think I would have probably given it like a 3-star, but I had it very hyped in my mind about what I was looking for, and it was something else, and that's okay. I mean, as I said, it's not a bad book. I just didn't connect with it. I didn't really enjoy a lot of the characters, and the section where they engage in like fairy lore, I thought was like a little bit weaker than it could have been, but I don't really like complaining about books. So we're on to the next question, number 5. Thank You for Listening was a huge surprise for me because I thought it was a memoir, and I was several pages into it before I realized that this is fiction. This is by Julia Whalen, and she, if you don't know, is a really popular audiobook narrator. So she narrates like all of Emily Henry's books, I think. And the book itself is about a audiobook narrator. And so I just kind of made an assumption. But this book was extremely entertaining. It was about a woman who was originally an actress, like the author, but unlike the author, she experienced a really devastating disfigurement by freak accident, which drove her to kind of focus on audiobook narration instead. And I just loved this book so much. I thought that even if I realized it was a romance, it really would have exceeded my expectations for a romance anyway. It did this kind of funny thing where it both leaned into a lot of the romance tropes while also kind of poking fun at them a little bit as well. And I guess I've always just kind of wondered what it's like for an audiobook narrator to read all of the spicy scenes and know that like people are listening to them. It's like narrating porn. And I just enjoyed like a lot of aspects about this book. Very entertaining. I think it would be really, really appealing for anybody who kind of enjoys Emily Henry. I might actually have liked it more than Emily Henry's books. The second big surprise was Jurassic Park. I read this one pretty recently as well, and I thought that this one was going to be kind of campy. I've never seen the movies. I didn't totally, I had a very vague idea of what the premise would be. It really scratched a particular itch where like sci-fi and horror overlap, where science goes wrong, where science plays a really important role in plot. And so this was actually just very, very enjoyable for me. It was quite scary and like tense at certain moments and really thrilling. I loved it. I tend to be very conservative when I'm saying like so-and-so is a favorite author. So I don't think that I would say that about anybody that I've read yet, although Rachel Gillig is probably going to be an Insta-buy. It depends on how Two Twisted Crowns goes, but I'm pretty sure she is going to be an Insta-buy author for me now. And another author that really impressed me and that I'm quite that I'm quite excited to read more from is Carissa Broadbent. I had very low expectations, and I could actually say this was a book that surprised me as well, because I really didn't expect a whole lot from her book, but I ended up absolutely loving The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I am really excited to read the sequel later this year. I do not typically have fictional crushes. However, if I were to have one, it would be Darlington. I will always have a soft spot for a guy who loves books and dresses nicely, especially if he comes with a fancy mansion, and the gentleman demon aspect really is pretty much the full package at that point. I cannot answer One Dark Window for everything, so I'm going to say Orca from Shadow of the Gods. Orca is this totally badass woman. She's a mother, and I just found like her story unfolding and getting to see the depth of her coming out was so interesting and exciting. Like, I kind of admire her a little bit because she's also a great example of a wonderful female character written by a man, I think, because she's able to be soft and empathetic and, nurturing while also being a total kick-ass warrior. And there isn't either extreme. There is a duality to her and dimensionality that I just really thought was wonderful. I am not really a crier, so this is kind of a difficult question that I can't fully answer, but there was a book that I read recently that kind of gave me like the stuffy throat and like wet eye feeling, just no tears were shed. And that is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. This book was really moving. It's a magical realism, partly from the perspective of a young woman and a tree in the present day, and the tree kind of looks back on the past as well. And then you get little glimpses of this young woman's parents, and her parents grew up in Cyprus. Her mother is a Muslim Turk, and her father is a Greek Christian, and it's during the war in the 70s, I think. And it's just the story of their relationship, and really, I think more broadly, it's a story about generational trauma and generational pain and longing for our homeland and our homes and family. I do not think that I've actually watched any adaptations except for the recent Shadow and Bone, and I did not really like that one, so we're not going to talk about it. But I will talk about instead some adaptations that I'm really keen on watching. The first one that I haven't watched yet that I'm really excited to is Interview with a Vampire. This is a TV series that was adapted from Anne Rice's original book, and it just looks like so much fun. It looks sexy and gay and dark and just really aesthetically beautiful. Yeah, Interview with a Vampire is just one of my favorite books, and I'm really excited to see what they did to it. If you've seen it, let me know what your thoughts were. Another adaptation that I'm really excited to watch is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This was a middle grade book about a teenage girl hitting puberty, basically. It's like a coming of age set in the 70s. I think it was written in the 70s by Judy Blume, and this is one of the books that I read when I was growing up. So I think the film will just be very nostalgic, and I'm looking forward to that coming out. I don't write reviews, but the favorite video that I have done so far this year, I think, was probably the Reading Around the World in Jakarta, when I read Man Tiger, and I think it was just a really fun book, fun trip, and I'm moderately proud of how my editing grew. I think I leveled up in editing a little bit, trying to learn a lot of new things, putting that together. Okay, I'm taking this as the covers. So I have a few, and I'm actually going to start by cheating because I did not include this book in my 57 book tally since I haven't actually finished it. But currently I am reading The Gatekeeper by Noralia Norasid, and I think this is just such a genius cover. I feel actually quite stupid. I did not totally realize that this was the face of a Medusa, you can see her chin there. I realized last night. I'm being observant. Attention to detail is not something I put on my resume. I think I also really found The Last Tale of the Flower Bride incredibly beautiful and eerie and creepy. I feel like they kind of captured a certain aspect of that book really and distilled it really nicely into the cover. I know some people don't really like that cover, but I personally did. And the final, my books. The final question on this list, Night Bitch I think it's a woman who turns into a canine. I'm hoping to God that she eats people. I don't know. Magnolia Parks, which has the weirdest cover for a romance, especially like a toxic romance. This one is another one. I also really need to read Man-Made Monsters, Black Sun by Rebecca Broughton-Horse, and the second of the Nyaxia book, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I mean, ideally, the answer would be all of them, but I don't think that's gonna even happen. So that is my mid-year wrap-up tag, guys. I will link all of the questions down below, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you read any of these books. Let me know the best, the worst. What are you thinking? What are you feeling at this time of year? And until next time, have a great day wherever you are. Thanks for joining me, and take care. Bye-bye.